I'm a washed up hoops junkie, and this is my podcast. As we head into free agency in the next couple of days, there's a lot that's gone on leading up to it that is maybe more confusing than it makes sense. With the new collective bargaining agreement in place, teams are dumping contracts and trying to find manageable ways to improve their team over the long term. And a lot of these deals just don't make sense from a basketball standpoint. Without wasting any time, we're going to jump right into the first one. The most recent one is Utah picking up John Collins from Atlanta for Rudy Gay and a second-round pick. Clearly for Atlanta, this is a salary dump. For Utah, I don't know what this means. They're pairing John Collins and Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler. I don't know what this is going to work out like. I guess Markkanen's going to be the 3, Collins the 4, or are they going to rotate them? Is one of them going to be a sixth man? Not sure. What I do know is Utah is kind of maybe molding their team and building their team somewhat in the mold of what pre-KD Brooklyn did, where they were fun, reclamation products, projects, salary dumps and all of that, building something through that. If they land on a gym like they did with Markkanen, amazing. They have Colin Sexton, who is going to put up points for them, could turn into an asset. I think that was a good move for them. For Atlanta, it creates more questions like a lot of these deals do for teams. What are they going to do at the forward position? Is this a Kyle Kuzma landing spot? There are a lot of forwards out there, and I'm just going to use a few names. Kyle Kuzma, Harrison Barnes, Dylan Brooks, Grant Williams, Jeremy Grant are all kind of out there floating around. I mean, Chris Middleton turned down his option, although he's probably going back to Milwaukee. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens in the next 48 hours as free agency opens, to see what Atlanta is going to do with that money and who's going to get it. But again, they are a team that just needs to upgrade. They cannot be swinging for home runs. Just getting better is what matters. A championship isn't in the picture. The next one that's confusing is going to be Minnesota re-signing Naz Reid for 3 years, $42 million. If you think about this, that's $14 million a year. Add that to Karl Anthony Towns, who also plays the 5, and Rudy Gay, who also plays the 5. You've got $91 million in centers. I don't know if the Timberwolves found a DeLorean or made a time machine. This is not 1990s. You don't play this way. And Anthony Edwards is probably looking at this going, what are we doing? I'm wondering, Karl Anthony Towns is now the worst contract in the NBA in some ways. And there's got to be another deal coming at some point. That's 40, that's $400 million in salary guaranteed to centers. That doesn't make any sense, especially in current NBA. Let's move over to another team that has 3 centers now, which is Boston. Now, unloading Smart makes sense in that you had to go a different direction. While he was a leader and quote unquote heart and soul, you need somebody who's going to organize you in the half court and maybe take that next step, because clearly in the playoffs, they were not able to manufacture points in the half court. They spent the whole season relying on creating threes. Once you get into the playoffs, that's tighter. Well, now they have 3 centers: Porzingis, Grant Williams, and Al Horford. How that all works together, I don't know. Instantly, I think there's got to be another deal. Unless they truly believe Derek White is the answer at point guard, or Peyton Pritchard's suddenly going to step in. Something else is coming is what I'm thinking, because, again, very confusing. Don't know what that means. Free agency again will open soon. Is Fred VanVleet a target? Probably not. They don't have the space. It's, again, super confusing with the new cap and all these moves. The deal for Memphis, though, makes a lot of sense. Marcus Smart provides everything that they need. Leadership, maturity, fits in with their toughness and their attitude. He is able to fill the hole that the departure of Dylan Brooks and Tyus Jones is in one position, and he makes less money than the two of them combined. So it's a good deal from that standpoint. And they have enough young guys to step in to play the forward spot. With Ja suspended for 25 games, Smart can slide in, help you win some games, not fall back in the West. It's a really good move on their part, and he's not out of his prime. He is diminishing returns. His shooting percentages are not very good. However, he was a defensive player of the year, and pairing him with Jaren Jackson means they will be better because of that. Will they be a contender at the top shelf? Are they better than Denver? No, but the deal does make sense. Let's move on to the biggest deal, which was Bradley Beal to Phoenix. I feel like we've seen this show before where you smush together 3 stars and throw depth out the window and say, we'll make it work. This is very Harden, KD, Kyrie, Brooklyn-ish. How did that turn out? I don't think DeAndre Ayton is going to be super pumped to be the 4th option here. And my initial instinct was there's got to be a deal for him somewhere because they have no depth. They had no depth before. Now they have even less. And you're going to have Booker or Beal be your primary ball handler. I think Booker will be. Campaign is a nice backup. Is he ready to be the starter? Don't know. So they have no depth, and they have $162 million committed between Ayton, Beal, Booker, and KD. It's championship or bust because they have no cap flexibility. For Washington, if there's people out there who are down on this deal for Washington, I don't agree. I don't see it that way. Yes, Bradley Beal was a very good player, but he was a $200 million contract for a player who only once made it All-NBA 13. He averages 63 games a season for his 11-year career. I don't see that as $200 million. He's maybe not even a top 20 player, and he was crushing your cap space. Never mind what you got for him, just getting off that deal in your market made total sense. And they bring in Jordan Poole after moving CP3 around. Poole's production is probably going to be very Beal-like. Now, say what you will about his maybe lack of winning plays, but he's going to put up points. He's going to have some highlights out there. They brought in Tyus Jones. Are they going to win a ton of games? No. Will they potentially be competitive in those games? Yes. Kyle Kuzma, it feels like, is going somewhere else. They offloaded Porzingis. They have some decent players. I like Denny Avdia. They can do some things. Monte Morris, I don't know how long he'll be around. He's in the mix potentially to go somewhere else in a deal. They're in cost-saving mode, in collecting assets mode, and I think they did very, very well just getting off the Beal deal. That was smart. Now, let's move on to the other part of that piece, or part of that deal that we just kind of alluded to, which was Chris Paul. Him going to Golden State, to me, we're going to go best case, worst case scenario. Best case scenario is CP3 becomes the anchor of the second unit. He brings that leadership that he brought to OKC to their young guys, and he helps them in those non-Steph minutes, which they were awful at. Usually a change of pace guard coming off the bench is faster. He will be slower, more methodical, and help them manufacture points. Is he adaptable? Yes, I think he can play faster or maybe adapt into their style a little bit, but they need what he could do, in my eyes. And if you're playing him 20, 24 minutes, that could be a sneaky pick for 6th man of the year. On your worst case scenario, he's an expiring contract and you unloaded Jordan Poole's poor chemistry and bad contract. Either way, the Warriors did the right thing. Now they can make it a little more palatable to take back Draymond, and they keep the bus rolling. I think it was a win-win. Up next, the Portland Trail Blazers. I don't think there's anyone who to a large extent thinks Damian Lillard is going to still be on the Portland Trail Blazers in the near future. For me, I've heard the Zion to Portland talk, and for the love of the basketball gods, I really hope that doesn't happen. And here's why. I'm going to use some names. Bill Walton, Greg Oden, Brandon Roy, Sam Bowie, all potential stars who suffered crucial injuries over their time with the Portland Trail Blazers and were never the same. Zion already doesn't have a great health history. I'm not superstitious, but I don't want to tempt fate. So whatever you're doing, basketball gods, don't ship him there. I'm praying, which I don't do very often. The Clippers. I don't know what's going on there. And I'm confused. This is the dynasty maybe that never was with Kawhi and PG. And I'm pretty sure on this iteration, I said that they were, at some point the team to beat. Never materialized. Between Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, out of a possible 8 seasons, Kawhi has missed 1. Paul George is averaging less than 50 games a season. And in the 3 seasons that Kawhi played, he played 52 games, 57 games, and 52 games. Their contracts are coming up. What are you going to do? Where are you going with this? It's very confusing to figure out the future for them. There's a lot going on. We got time. We mentioned a lot of the free agent forwards out there. And Kyle Kuzma's name kind of sneaks around a little bit. There's teams that have created cap space. The Kings, does he fit there? Does he fit with Atlanta? Who's going to take care of this? I'm going to throw you 2 names. And I'm going to see what you think. Kyle Kuzma, Tobias Harris, Harrison Barnes. Really, what's the difference between the 3 of them? With Barnes, you could say age, but he's a great leader. He's productive. He can play a role. He's cheaper. And Tobias Harris, he and Kyle Kuzma, to me, maybe while Kuzma might be a little more versatile defensively, in my mind, they're really close. And there's a team that gave Tobias Harris $40 million. What's Kyle Kuzma really worth? At $25 million, unless you really believe he's the piece that's going to put you over the top, I'm not buying. I would rather spread my money out elsewhere. Grant Williams would be pretty effective. Jeremy Grant's still out there. Again, but he's also a $20+ million guy. Who would you rather have? Is it that big a difference between all of them? As we move through this, there's a couple of teams that have interesting things going on. With the Raptors, nobody knows what direction they're going. Are they offloading? Where's Van Vliet going? He's opted out. OG's almost done. Pascal's up for a big payday. Gary Trent just re-upped, so now he's expiring as he picked up his player option. They got a lot of desirable pieces. To who? Where? I don't know. Or does this just play out and we figure it out along the way? Is this another year of February uncertainty as we approach the trade deadline and now that they're under the gun to figure out what to do with these assets? Kyrie Irving in Dallas. I think this is his only option. I don't know anybody else that would be interested at a reasonable dollar amount. And his ideas of a max, if I'm Dallas and I hold the leverage, I'm not giving him a max. I'm not giving him the years because he's unreliable. How many games has he played? How many games has he missed? So you have the leverage of where else are you going to go? And if he says, I'm going somewhere else, I would let him go. They did a good job in the draft. They freed up cap space. They offloaded Bertans, which how you did that, I don't know. But they're in a way better position than they were. Let's see how that plays out as free agency opens. Bruce Brown's another name that's out there that's been linked to teams. Denver, if they can, should re-sign him. But there's no guarantee. There's a lot of names out there. He was big for them. but you don't want to hinder your future cap room, especially if Jokic and Murray on your roster long term. Your salary is committed to your core. Putting the pieces around them, maybe you move on. And my final thought here has to do with teams trading draft picks. Draft picks are assets that eventually turn into players. The real question is, are you trading for the potential future player that's going to be? When you get that asset, are you really relying on that? Or is this the player you're trading for now and the reality of who they are? I'm not upset when teams trade picks away. When they trade all of them away, that's not smart. It's just important to remember that picks eventually become players. They are not assets that never materialize. If you're continually trading for picks and collecting them, sooner or later, those picks got to turn into players. That being said, thanks for the time. Talk soon.